People assume that as soon as you're vegan, that means you're some sort of, militant, and you're not gonna, if somebody eats meat in the same room as you, you're gonna smash their face in or whatever. I wasn't going on there as a tub-thumping vegan. Yeah. I am vegan, but I am more than that. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounded like some sort of 80s pop lyric. It got to America, like Americans were going, they were taking veggie burgers and going, I'm gonna throw this in the trash, this is for you. Being a comedian who is a vegan is a good thing. That's Romesh, that guy. He's not funny. Trust me, he's not funny.
So my next guest is Romesh Ranganathan, who a lot of you will probably know from his comedy and appearances on TV. He's got a kind of self-deprecating, deadpan witticism about him, but he's also been vegan for the best part of a decade. So we're going to have a little chat with him over the next 30 minutes or so and just find out a little bit more about his vegan journey. Well, hello, Romesh. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So you've been mentioning you went vegetarian when you were about 12 years old.
Yeah.
What was the kind of reasoning behind that?
I had a friend of mine had like a pamphlet about why we shouldn't eat animals, and he wasn't even vegetarian, I don't think, but he just had this. He got hold of it somehow. And I was just flicking through it, and I got intrigued, and by the time I finished reading it, I decided I didn't want to ever eat meat again. And so I went home and I told my mum I don't want to eat meat anymore. My mum was really surprised because, to be honest with you, I was a big kid,
yeah,
massive, yeah, and I used to eat. My mum made this lamb curry, and I used to smash through it, mutton curry actually. I used to smash through it. So me coming home and saying I don't want to eat meat anymore. My mum was very, very surprised,
yeah,
but respected it. And coming from a Hindu background, sort of vegetarianism is kind of the way of that faith. Do you know what I mean? So she sort of was very supportive, but she's like, cool, if that's what you want to do. And then that's what I did. So I was vegetarian for ages and ages and ages. When I was at uni, I had 6 months where it sounds, I'm almost embarrassed to say it now. I almost felt, when you go to uni and you have nobody knows you, right? You have this new beginning. So I almost felt nervous to tell people I was vegetarian, and so I started eating meat for about, I would say 6 months, and I hated what it did to me. I didn't like how I felt after the meals. I didn't like what it did to my digestion. I didn't like how I felt morally about it. So then I went veggie again. And then about 10 years ago, I kind of, I was looking into, just casual reading, I guess. I was looking at veganism, and I realised that the reasons I'd gone vegetarian are the reasons that I should probably go vegan. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the sort of the dairy industry and all of that, I just sort of thought, you know what? I've gone this far and I've done this for this long. I might as well just make the full switch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, go for the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was. Yeah. When you went back to eat meat and then changed to vegetarianism again at uni, did you have to then tell your friends I'm done with it?
Yeah, and they were. Do you know what? I was worried about enough of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is you sort of. I think it's the same thing. When you're 17, 18 or whatever, you're worried about identity and fitting in and stuff like that. And I think it's the same thing for vegans. I feel it's almost, it shouldn't be, please don't at me for saying this, but I feel like sometimes it's something that people feel embarrassed about saying that they are. Do you know what I mean? Because it is sort of socially, you're seen as an extremist. Do you know what I mean? And you know better than I do from working with Viva, whatever. The scale of what it means to be vegan is so huge, and I think that people assume that as soon as you're vegan, that means you're some sort of militant, and you're not gonna, if somebody eats meat in the same room as you, you're gonna smash their face in or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I feel one of the things I think is anything I can do in a small way to kind of dissolve that belief is a positive.
Yeah, I agree. And you kind of use humour to disarm it, and which is good as well, because it's not down your throat. You're not being militant. But when people ask you, why is it you went vegan? What do you drink? Water? Yeah. I've got compassion.
Yeah. I feel like it's something where I want to, one of the other things is that, I've said this in my last tour shows, that vegans are seen as being kind of humorless. So I think, being a comedian who is a vegan is a good thing. But also, there's no getting around it. There are some things that are slightly worse about being vegan, food-wise, right? It's getting much better, but you are making sacrifices here and there. But I'm willing to make those because of my set of morals. Do you know what I mean? And so and also, if somebody's not vegan, I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand. Like, you enjoy meat and you haven't. But sometimes I do feel like a lot of the anger that's directed towards vegans, and I do get it. I did a thing where I did a video. I was doing the Ranganation, this show on BBC Two, and they just said to me, "Can you do a social media clip about something that you're thinking about at the moment?" And I just said, "I'm getting fed up of people saying." Moaning about vegans, and then I did this sort of tongue-in-cheek thing about, do you think that we think we're better than you? We are. And it was just like a jokey thing. My Twitter timeline was on fire afterwards, man. It got to America, and Americans were going, they were taking veggie burgers and going, I'm going to throw this in the trash, this is for you. And it was really and part of the reason I think it's so divisive is, obviously people are passionate about eating meat, their jobs might be tied up in it, and I totally get that and I totally respect that. But the other thing is, I think that there's a lot of logical sense to being vegan, but a lot of people don't want to. And I understand, you sort of go, I don't want to give up a steak. I don't want to give up a beef burger. Do you know what I mean? If that's the case, it's fine. But I feel like what happens then is your defense becomes offense. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so you become quite front-footed about it. And so it's something that I kind of feel quite strongly about, kind of diffusing that. Like, I don't mind if you take the piss out of vegans. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? But also, at the same time, sometimes I've upset vegans in the past, because sometimes I sort of go, well, this is the bad bit about it. I don't think we've nailed cheese yet. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't even melt yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I say that, people feel like, oh, you're being negative about it. But I'm not. What I'm saying to you is, when it's got loads better, I think it's brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I got a box of 6 vegan donuts the other day, and I was thinking to myself, even 10 years ago, the idea of even getting hold of a vegan cake felt so insane. Do you know what I mean? So it is getting loads better. But I think as a community, we can just show that we can laugh at ourselves or whatever. But we feel like this is the thing we want to do. But the truth is, since I've become vegan, I've heard more people having a go at me who are not vegan. When people talk about vegans are preachy, I've heard loads more from non-vegans than I have from vegans. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you did Bake Off as well, how was that for you? Did you get a lot of backlash from that, or was that okay? Or
it was quite nice actually, because I think a lot of people didn't realise that you could make all of these things vegan, and so they got all of the, they get all of the audience members to come in and they do their own bake. So that week they asked them to do them all vegan, so that I could sit and try everything. And there was one woman who I said, "Oh, how come you decided to make it vegan?" She goes, "Because production told me to."
Great.
I do, yeah. But I do, yeah. But I do think it was. Look, I just think it's a mainstream. I liked it because it was a mainstream show, and you were showing that was going on, and I feel like, I wasn't going on there as a tub thumping vegan. Yeah. I like being vegan. It doesn't define me. It's, I am vegan, but I am more than that. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounded like some sort of 80s pop lyric, but do you know what I mean? Like, what I mean by that is, it's not the be all and that is what I choose to do. But people sort of go, even the idea of they're vegans. It's like, well, no, they're people who happen to be vegan. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like there's a difference. It's not everything about you, and you can be passionate about it, sure, but that's not everything. And I just feel like anything that you can do to kind of dissolve this barrier between veganism and non-veganism, I think is helpful, because I think it would encourage more people who are sort of on the fence about it to maybe go, do you know what, I'll give it a go. And lots of times I've had conversations where somebody's gone, we've been having a drink or something, and they've gone, can I just ask you, why is it? And if somebody asks me, I will talk to you forever about why I made those choices, why I think it's a small. The change that you're making is relatively small compared to the difference that, the moral difference that you're making. And I'm happy to have that chat. What I won't do is shout it at people as soon as I meet them. Do you know what I mean? It's not my style.
Isn't it? Like, everything now is like people have blinkers on, like you're vegan, you're this, you're this.
Exactly.
And it doesn't need to be like that.
No.
One aspect of who you are, like you say.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes if you go front-footed with it, people go, put the shutters up and go, I will never do. Do you know what I mean? I kind of feel like softly sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I think raising awareness and stuff like that is really important. And sometimes people, I've had chats with people where they go, I get why you don't eat animals because they die, but why do you not have dairy? And it's because they don't know. It's not because they're, those people aren't ignorant. It's because you look at the way that dairy is promoted and, cows are in the adverts. Do you know what I mean? So why wouldn't you think it was a gentle thing? I get it. But so I do think raising awareness is a thing, but I feel like it should be a bit like every question's okay. Let's just have an amnesty on what you think. Do you know what I mean?
Ask it. There's no stupid questions.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And I feel like we're getting to a point now where as vegan food gets better and better, it blew my mind. Sorry, I'm waffling a bit.
Waffle away.
It blew my mind when I went into Harvesters and they had a vegan menu. And I'm like, that is the most mainstream of the mainstream.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Carver in here, £8 vegan option.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Right.
And you're just like, do you know what, man? It doesn't feel that big a deal now. Do you know? So, I feel like, I know it sounds stupid, but the ideal is that you don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to have a vegan festival. It's all integrated. Do you know what I mean? And there's do you know what I mean? It's, we're way off that.
That's all right. And I mean, been doing comedy now for a long time. When did you first kind of realise that you were funny, and what was the catalyst for that, for pursuing comedy?
Well, I did my first gig when I was 9, actually, because I was at Pontin's holiday camp with my family, and they had a talent contest, and I was obsessed with stand-up comedy growing up. I really got into Eddie Murphy, and then I got into Richard Pryor when I started watching stand-up non-stop, and then we went on holiday, and I thought, I'm just going to give it a go. And so I did it, and then I didn't think anything of it because I just thought it felt so impossible to do it as a job. So jobs in the entertainment sector are I just didn't see it as a viable job option. I mean, years later I was a teacher, and then I just thought, this could be something I could do in the evening, as a hobby. All teachers are doing something. They're in a rock band or whatever, a DJ or whatever.
So I thought, rock bands, dad rock.
Yeah, 100%. So I just thought, I'll give it a go, and it just happened by accident, really, because I was loving teaching. But then, promoters at gigs would go, you definitely could do this for a job. And so it kind of happened by accident. But in terms of, how I am socially, the truth is I'm not that much of an extrovert. Do you know what I mean? And, I'm kind of quite quiet in the chat. So sometimes, people, my brother will bring mates around or whatever, or people he works with, and we'll be having a drink or whatever. And then, so many times I get this comment, we're like, you're not sort of how I thought you were going to, because they just think you're going to be what's the deal with this table? Do you know what I mean? And I'm just not like that.
No.
So.
Do you feel like there's people ever, like you say, that expectation or that pressure to perform, and you're just leave me alone, I want to be a grumpy git today? Or
Yeah, well, luckily, being a grumpy git and my performance is quite closely entwined. But it very rarely happens. I did have, recently I was in a card shop trying to get an anniversary card for my wife or something. And this woman came into the shop, and she said, can I get a photo? But my husband's outside and he doesn't want to come in, so could you come out? So I was like, oh, okay. So I was in I was trying to, so I came outside and I go, oh, cool, where do you want the photo? And then she just went, you're not being very funny, are you? And I was just like, oh, sorry. I was just I was just coming out to do the photo. I'm just trying to buy I'm trying to buy an anniversary card. Yeah. And then I had another time at a pub near my house, where this guy just goes, oh, you're that comedian, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do something funny now. And I just went, he goes, do a joke. And I said, I don't really do jokes. I just sort of moan and hope it's amusing. I don't really have jokes. And he just started heckling me for the rest of the night, in the pub. I went to sit with my wife, and he's just going, he's not funny, that's Romesh, that guy. He's not funny. Trust me, he's not funny, because I just asked him in the moment, and he had nothing. I was like, oh God, man. I don't know why we stayed.
Good. But you masochist.
Yeah.
Keep it coming. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And good luck with your set at Vegan Camp.
Thank you, I'll need it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
That's all right. Lovely to meet you.
You too, thank you.
Take it easy.
Cheers.
Thank you.